Robert Leonard, 175 Amity Road, application for a special permit for liquor establishment for manufactured beer and brew pub use at 175 Amity Road. We have a new liaison from the Board of Selectmen. Everyone's very excited about that. Now, not all of you are privy to all the emails that go through this town. Neither am I. But I happen to see one email from this new liaison telling his last liaison how much he loved working for them, really is upset that he's not still working with them, and I just want to I hope that we can meet the level of expectations that you used to get from Coupop.
Well, you know I visit here regardless.
I know.
I like you so much, I was coming into it.
I know. I'm harassing you. I saw that email. I go, well, maybe he doesn't want to be our liaison. You never know. All right, great. Our first item on the agenda is Ginger Nash, 260 Amity Road, application for a freestanding business sign. Is anyone here?
I am Ginger Nash.
Nice to meet you.
It's actually not freestanding on its own. It's an amendment.
I'm sorry, this is incredible. We are so formal, and we have our own table for you.
Hello.
And you need to sign in, please.
Should I sign first before I start speaking?
Well,
I'll sign after.
yeah. Okay, whatever. Don't forget that.
So it's actually an amendment to an already existing freestanding sign of Dr. Luco Francesco behind me here, whose office I joined last June. And we brought the sign. I've also provided pictures. I think you guys have them. It's a nice sign. It's not schlocky. It's made of wood. It's beautifully made. I have had a number of patients literally pull into the parking lot and come in and say, oh, I saw your sign, and what is a naturopathic physician? What do you do here? So I practice natural medicine, and I've been in practice for 16 years. I was in New Haven prior to moving in with Dr. Lou. So I'd really like to help my patients find me, my existing patients, and I've also had, some new business from the sign as well, which has been great. Mm-hmm. I didn't know when I moved onto Amity Road that there's thousands and thousands and thousands of cars that go up and down Amity Road every day. So, so it's been a great move for me, and I'd love to, get my sign back up there and keep doing my business.
Isn't there somebody else putting a sign up there too?
I don't know. I don't think so.
Did we figure out who it was? The name? I think it's somebody he knows. No?
In the same, we're in the Wells Fargo, we're above Wells Fargo Bank.
Yeah, isn't there?
There's no other sign except for the
No, I know. I thought there was going to be
Co-Francesco Healing
somebody
Arts.
Came and put an application in for this.
Maybe, I don't know. I mean, would it be Development 2, the other business? And there is another business in the same spot, so
Okay.
maybe it's them.
All right. All right. Any questions?
Does this sign conform to the?
It supposedly conforms, yes, because his sign is already there. I personally think that his sign is too close to the road, but the state doesn't think so, I guess, because it's still there, and they haven't said your sign's too close to the road. So
this is just going to be attached to the.
Yeah, and I think I provided you with
This is
pictures of the sign there and what it looks like now that we've removed the sign.
I know, so I wouldn't buy the day that you were taking pictures, though I didn't realize you were taking pictures.
Oh, really?
And I went, oh, that must be the sign we're approving. That's already up. But whatever.
No, it was just to show what it would look like with it up and with it not there, to compare.
All right. Questions?
Is the sign the same on both sides?
Yeah, I believe it is.
Have it here. Would you
Yeah,
like
you
to
want
see
to
it?
see it? Why don't you
Sure.
grab it? Thank you, Dr. Lou. It is?
And it hangs from the existing sign.
Thank you.
agree with you that it's too close to the road. But the state,
Let me tell you. It's up there.
And the sign is already up there.
All right, very good. Any other questions? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Kaufman, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
The sign you say you think is too close to the road, how far back would you like me to move it?
I don't know. I think it should, whatever that distance is, like from the road to the sign, I think it should be that distance back. I don't actually see how people can see coming out of it. I mean, again,
Well, they don't come out of that driveway.
And I'm surprised the state let it. I can't believe it doesn't get beat up in the winter.
Well, one thing that isn't very clear from the pictures is that driveway that's right next to the sign is an entrance only. So when people leave the parking lot, it's actually a few, I don't know how many feet up the road.
yeah.
So people aren't pulling out from that driveway with that sign right there. It's uphill, the exit. So the visibility factor is a little bit better in terms of where the sign is placed.
I mean, like
but-
there's a sign in the back, in the way back in the next. I think it's like probably the real estate sign on the next lot up. If you're facing your building up to the right,
Yeah.
there's a sign similar to yours that's back, but it's back.
Yeah, I mean, if we can move it back, that's
That to
fine.
me seems like a lot. This is so close to the road. To me, it looks temporary. I mean,
And to
again,
Jeff's point, in the winter, when there's snowbanks,
Yeah.
I mean, your sign is gonna have to be removed or it'll get encased in a
It
snowbank.
didn't this past winter at all.
And before
I
that,
don't know
was
how
that
that's the
sign-
case, but
Surprising.
The sign underneath that used to say what we did there. It was the what we provided.
right.
We took that piece off and we put her name on it when she came to work. So
Oh,
it's
you
been
mean-
there for 4
Oh, you mean,
years.
so there was something underneath, and you're just, in effect, the same size as this?
That's the
yeah,
exact
it was a
same sign.
list of the services that the
So you're
office
just
offered, but
replacing
now
that?
it's just replacing it with my name.
Okay.
And I don't know if the snow plows just plow all the way down Amity Road or where the snow goes, but it wasn't a problem in terms of the snow. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for holding a special hearing on this
Just for you.
summer evening. Yeah, thanks very much.
Well, it's air conditioned here.
Nice to meet you.
Take care. Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Okay, the next is a Robert Pryor, 190 Seymour Road, application for a special permit for earth removal, fill, and regrading relative to the residential site development of 190 Seymour Road. We also have a memorandum from Criscola Engineering. Are you Mr. Pryor?
Yes.
Okay, so do you have this memorandum from Mr.?
Yes, I just received it.
Oh. Yeah, we do it on. Do for the first thing. All right. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Robert Pryor. I'm here as the owner of the property, also as the applicant, and as the surveyor and engineer. I'm a licensed professional engineer and land surveyor here in the state of Connecticut. I'm not sure how familiar you are with the property, but this property is located just to the, there are a couple lots to the, I would say to the east of Peck Hill Road. And I think probably the most characteristic that sets it apart the most is the fact that down through kind of the center of the lot, there's a pretty big intermittent water course that cuts through the lot as a result from storm drainage that's been discharged from the small subdivision immediately up the slope. And that sort of determines kind of how we can develop the lot and where we can put the house on the property. Although it's not we're not applying for a site plan review here. We're applying under Section 7 of the regulations for earthwork. And when I spoke to Terry and Chris about this, we looked at that regulation and we thought that there's some ambiguity in the regulation as to whether this lot needed a permit or not. But to be on the safe side, I agreed that if the staff felt more comfortable with coming to the commission, I'd be happy to do it. Essentially, it comes under the regulation, under the Section 7 regulations, for the fact that we fall below the 1,000 cubic yard threshold of earthwork, but we have excess of 10,000 square feet of disturbance on the lot, which probably in and of itself wouldn't be a big deal. But we also have some areas within the 50 feet of the property line that are steeper than the 3-to-1 grade called for in the regulations, or that trigger sort of this application. Not to say that this commission, as a commission, there's provisions in the regulation that allow you to approve it that way. It's just that we have to come to the commission to get that approval to have that grading. And what I would say is that there's no grades within that 50-foot area that are steeper than 2-to-1, and for the most part, the grades are around 2.5-to-1. There are some areas of 2-to-1, but there's nothing steeper than that. Most of it is 2.5-to-1. Majority of the lot is flatter than 3-to-1. The reason we pulled the grades a little bit tighter in some of the areas was to reduce the amount of site disturbance. Where much of the lot, because of the 100-foot setback, is within the wetland area, is within the wetland regulatory area. So we look to reduce as much of the site disturbance as we could, preserve some buffer of trees between the house and Seymour Road. The location of the driveway is pretty much set, and it's been looked at and approved by the DOT for that location. And there's not a whole lot more to the application. We could, by creating some more site disturbance, we could push the grades out to 3-to-1 if we had to. The lot is pretty steep to begin with, around 20% average grade. So when you start flattening out grades, you tend to chase the grades quite a ways to create a relatively small amount of flattening out. You end up opening up quite a bit more area.
It's all wooded, correct?
It is wooded, yes. Part of the site development, and you can't really see the detail of it, but that existing channel that's going through the water course, we're actually going to reinforce that and improve that so that we eliminate the existing erosion problem. There's significant amount of erosion now that comes through that, down through the drainage system and down across Seymour Road to Bladen's Brook. So
Are you allowed to do that?
the Inland Wetland Commission has thoroughly endorsed my doing that. I would say it's one of the first. I believe it or not, I had suggested something less intensive than this, and they liked this better, and the consultant liked it better. So it's probably the first time in my career that a wetland commission asked me to do more disturbance than less.
Is the water course active? Is it an active stream, or is it more a storm runoff?
It does go dry between storm events. There is a certain, in the wetter times of the year, there is some small amount of base flow, but I would say as we get into the later times of the later summer and fall, it dries up. And that's sort of, we're trying to get that work done this fall, that stormwater work done. It's the first thing that we have to do. In fact, the agreement we've made as part of the wetlands approval is that we wouldn't be allowed to pull a building permit until we did the stormwater improvements on the site, which I would say should give you some confidence in the bond amount, because a larger part of that bond is that those stormwater improvements. So you've got sort of some added security in that. I can't even start before I put them in. So I certainly can't walk away without doing it.
I would do it quickly before they change their mind.
Yeah. But as far as the site design is relatively straightforward, and again, what we're really looking for is the ability to keep some of the disturbance to a minimum by allowing some grades that are steeper than the 3-to-1 grades within the 50 feet. I think.
Could you walk the commission through to show it so they understand where you're moving dirt around?
Essentially what happens is when we come in off of Seymour Road, there's going to be some cutting happening there to get in off the road. The DOT requires us to come in at a relatively flat slope within their right-of-way. So there'll be some amount of cutting here, and along the uphill side of the driveway, that's the first location that there's some 2-to-1 slopes called for. As we move up the hill, we go from a cut, and then we start actually filling the driveway down in this corner, this sort of northwest corner of the site. And you've got some grades probably right in here, close to the western property line, that are 2.5-to-1, something like that. And then as we essentially get back to existing grade, kind of where the house sits, we do a little bit of filling in front of the house so the house doesn't look like it's sticking way up out of the ground. And then we do some cutting in the backyard just to create a usable backyard. You know, what we find is if we don't provide some amount of backyard, typically that's where you have issues where that work might get done after the fact. If we don't give the people a big enough backyard to start with, next thing you know, you have some unregulated type of things going on. But that's typically, so you're really moving dirt, kind of moving some dirt from the backyard to in front of the house, and then from the cut through the driveway up to the central portion of the driveway. The site was designed to be balanced. It's designed so we shouldn't have to bring any material except for the necessary material to build the driveway and septic system and the like in, nor should we expect that we would export a lot of material, with the exception of any material that may get, sometimes there's some material that, you know, topsoil gets mixed with subsoil and it becomes really it's not good topsoil, it's not good fill anymore, and so sometimes you have to take that off.
And are you allowed to take the water that comes down the hill and put it into this new
Yes. That's the new or the reinforced stream channel has been sized to be stable up until the 100-year storm event. So it's quite a robust design.
Does it eventually?
Go ahead. How long do you think this is going to take?
My site contractor said that he thinks that well, it depends what you mean. The whole site development, I expect that if we start this fall, we would like to be on the market with this home next spring sometime. The actual stream channel improvements, my site contractor has given me an optimistic estimate of about 2 weeks to do that work. If he does it in 2 weeks, I'd be really happy, but I think it's more like about a month's worth of work.
And where does this stream go after it leaves?
Yeah, what does this feed into?
I mean, I know we're not inland wetlands.
Yeah. No, it's collected.
Taking the water off the driveway and putting it into a stream is a little odd to me.
It's collected by, there's existing catch basins and a storm drainage system on on Seymour Road, and that's the state DOT drainage system.
So it's going into the state.
So it goes there now.
So then you're saying that it's allowed to go into the new culvert, the new,
Right,
it's not
right.
being steered that direction.
No.
You should understand, there's no new water. The water is there presently. It's largely drains, I believe, the road above.
It's Roseview or Rose Hill?
Right. So the water's already there. It's uncontrolled. It's badly deteriorating its bank at present. And so, with you're the second applicant on
The
this.
water in the stream.
The water in the stream, and the stream bed itself is highly eroded. And so, this is the second applicant on this particular piece of property. Your design follows the design of another person, and this is designed to control the water, not to direct the water. The water is there, and needs to be safely gotten to Bladen's Brook.
Yeah, so I was actually I was thinking about the water that's coming down the driveway.
Well, that would be new water.
Yeah, I mean, there's a slight increase in runoff because of the site development. But again, that when you look at that in comparison to the flows that are in the system already coming down from the subdivision up above, it's pretty infinitesimal, the increase. And again, the state, I provide all my calculations for drainage to the DOT, and they had no reservations about that extra water getting into their system. And
But
again,
the water that's going into the stream is not going into their system.
yes, it all goes into their system conveys water from this location to Bladen's Brook. It's their system that does that conveyance.
Okay.
So their system is sort of in between here and Bladen's Brook. They provide the means to get the water off the hill down to the brook.
All right. Okay. That's
I'm
what
sorry if I
was.
wasn't clear on that.
Probably were, but I wasn't following. Thanks. All right.
As far as the items or the comments by your consultant, there's really nothing there. Believe it or not, I guess I was not as optimistic by putting the approval box on the drawings, so I didn't. So he asked me to do that, and asked me to put the names and addresses of the abutting property owners on the plans. This drawing is part of a bigger set. This existing conditions drawing does have that. That wasn't part of the submission that he got. So that's not a problem.
Cool. And you're okay with the increase in the bond?
No, I think the bond amount, the bond calculation was my calculation. It was a number that I gave him. So, and that was from my contractor's estimate on the number. So, I get to have it back eventually, I guess.
Are there any other questions?
Yeah, I have a question. I don't know if what I'm going to ask is related to excavation, removal, filling, but is it absolutely necessary to remove the stone wall across the whole front of the property?
Yes. The DOT has required that we remove the stone wall. They have requirements, federally mandated requirements for clear zones based on speed. And so whenever anybody approaches those, anybody does any work on a lot that fronts their highway, any of those obstructions in their right of way, and the stone wall is in their right of way, they have required me to take it out.
In case they want to land a jet.
Well, you saw probably a few years ago they did all this tree cutting on the side of the interstates. It's the same reason, so that when if somebody drives off the road, they don't hit a tree.
Sure, but then they went and planted new trees along the median strip, so
Yeah.
I didn't get that.
No, I know.
Well, that's a shame.
And we like stone walls.
I'm going to reuse all that rock.
Okay, be careful where you're going with this. What are you use it for?
I'm going to reuse it. I'm going to reuse it as part of the storm drainage improvements.
I knew I should have stopped it. Rebuild the wall?
Remember-
Yes. Ah, okay.
The wall, right?
Why don't you rebuild the wall? The wall would look really nice up there. In fact, don't you need a wall on the on the uphill part of the driveway curve so you don't drive off?
To help guide the water along the edge of the driveway.
The driveway
instead of
actually
down the
pitches
hill?
toward the inside. It doesn't run off the outside of the driveway. It actually pitches
I
toward
was
the
thinking
embankment.
if there's like a high school kid driving down there.
I think I'm looking to plant that. I think I'm looking to plant a row of evergreens along that outside edge.
Not arborvitaes, are they?
No.
Okay. I would say no too. All right. Anything else? Does anybody live next time? Let's go.
The lot to the east or west, I should say, is vacant, and I have neighbors to the east and the other two sides. So I think maybe they're here to might have something to say.
Thank you very much. Is there anybody that would like to speak opposed to the application? Was there anybody that would like to speak in favor of the application?
I guess so.
Okay.
I'll take it in favor.
There's not usually that many of them, so I just always start with opposed.
So my name is Joan Malerba, and I've lived nearly my entire life right next door to that property when it was a field, and now it's a forest. And everything Mr. Pryor said about the water is absolutely accurate. It's just a gushing, rushing, uncontrolled flow. If I tried to stand in it during early winter months when it's running, it would knock me over. And then it tends to dry up. If he could, and it sounds it's being done very responsibly, if he could make these improvements to control that water, I can't even get home. It becomes an ice flow in the winter. And I have to go down Bethmore Road and come around and then try to get past the other end because Roseview? Yeah. When that development went up there, all the water's being channeled on either side of our property, and getting one side further east is getting washed into the road. You can see all the sand. I think what he's doing is an improvement because now that water will go somewhere. So I just came tonight just to see how close it was going to be, and I would love to see the rock walls remain, but that's none of my business. I don't own the property. But trying to get to our home, that's a dangerous curve. Every day I lean out as far as I can, turn everything off and listen, and then scoot out real fast. Most of the times I have to put on my right blinker and pull over so cars going at least 50 can get past me. So if you can get that water off the road, it would
make a difference.
It would make a difference. The rest of the stuff is for greater minds than mine, but I just want to concur that he was absolutely accurate in how much water comes down there. At this point, there are huge trees. I don't know how they're standing, but they're at the bottom of maybe 15 to 20 foot gouges, just ready to topple over. And it's getting worse every year. So I just wanted to
All right.
Make that point.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Any other questions? Okay, moving along. Robert Leonard, 175 Amity Road, application for a special permit for a liquor establishment for manufacture of beer and brew pub use at 175 Amity Road. Pardon? He's not here. So, Terry, just so you know, we're here because of him.
Yeah. Trying to be nice. Okay.
Okay, well, I guess we're going to the work session. So the first item on the work session is the Woodbridge Gas LLC and KFP Family Limited Partnership application for amendment of section 3.14.1 gasoline stations.
Oh, that's right.
No, it's just a website.
I was not here for the July 7th hearing on that, so find someone else.
Okay. Application to amend section 3.14.1 of the zoning regulations of the town of Woodbridge by removing the limitation on the gross floor area of a building that can be used to sell convenience items. So let's figure out who's involved in this discussion. You know these guys or not?
Unless it's
Well,
I wasn't involved, but I watched the videos.
Well, then you get to be involved.
Same here.
No, there you go.
I watched the 5th, I was here for the 1st.
The only meeting I missed might have been the 7th, because I was starting trials, so I think I may not have been.
So that was
everybody else can
right.
participate.
I was here then too. Was it
Yeah.
discussed in the 7th?
Yeah.
No, so I was 2 out of 3 and saw the video.
Okay, so just briefly, they had come to the commission with an application, the same application, before they got approvals. They were given, the commission did not want to change the regulations because it meant allowing convenience stores all over town, which the commission wasn't in favor of. So we approved the gas station, and then they came back and asked for they wanted to change its use to retail, which they're allowed to do. And so we approved that. So technically, they have, not technically, I mean, in reality, they have a full application of what they asked for, and we approved what they asked for. And so there's nothing stopping them from doing that project. Then they've come back, and they're again asking the same thing, to change our regulations to allow convenience stores. And so we've been trying to not deal with it. We have money in our budget for a planner because our regulations are dated. And so we have money in our budget for a planner, and the idea was this is the first area, the whole business area would be the first area that we would probably want the planner to focus on. Unfortunately, we don't have the planner yet, although I have spoken to somebody, but they're interested, but they're not available until I believe September, October. So so I did explain this all the last time, and I requested that we're not actually stopping this project from going forward. So I suggest that, again, the commission holds off and doesn't change the zoning regulation. I think it has more potential damaging effects down the road than by not approving a zone change until we actually get a planner in here to actually give us some advice on how to do it, so that we don't. I think eventually, I'm going to go so far as to say I'm going to assume that this would be the lot, that this is one of the areas that would actually get the change if we do a change for convenience stores. But the point is, we don't want to make that change now because we don't have any way of stopping it anyplace else in town. So
My feeling is, are we holding this property hostage? You know, by not acting, we're holding the landlord and the tenant?
we are not holding them hostage. They've come to us and asked us for an application. We gave them all the approvals they asked for. They were happy, and then they came and said, okay, we still want to change this. So we're not actually stop holding them hostage on anything.
Now, how about the recommendation to allow this change in the zoning regs only for this one district?
They don't.
this one area and put in a radius parameter on it so that
Well, we can't really
it's
do
not.
that.
It's spot zoning.
Well, that's what the
So they said that would.
recommendation from our staff.
No, we're not agreeing to. I mean, I don't agree with that. And I think that we need a planner to give us some expert advice on what we can do and what we can't do. And and I think it would be very, I think, short-sighted of us to see that we're close to actually getting somebody who actually does this and is going to help us with the planning and knee-jerk, because that's kind of unfortunately what happens here all the time. So I really think we need an expert to do it.
So staff did say they thought it could be construed as spot zoning. They're suggesting a change in regs to get rid of the one of the districts and just have B1. That's what, and I agree with what you're saying. They're assuming that no development is going to happen in those areas because a couple of the businesses have recently expanded, one place is already being mediated, but we don't know what's going to happen in the future.
And that also, nothing on our building department and zoning department, but that actually isn't what they would say on other things to us. They would say, why do we have this rule? Well, in case somebody wants to do it someplace else, you don't want them to do it. So a lot of the rules are made for what you don't know what's coming down the road as opposed to what's in front of you. And again, I think it would, and also, I did actually take, and go back and look at our plan with zones, and there's either 8 or 12 different commercial zones down there. And so, okay, which one do we pick? You know, so I think that's really one of the things that an expert looking at it we should be doing. So no, we're not holding anybody hostage. They have an application. I mean, they got all the approvals they wanted. So I would suggest that we ask the applicant who's not here to give us a 30-day, or whatever we're allowed to ask for extension. But if they're not here, then I think we should vote and deny without prejudice till they can just come back.
I would recommend just denying because of the fact that even if they gave a 30-day extension, that very well is not going to be enough anyway.
I don't
and
think
so
it is.
doesn't.
I agree.
So why even bother with the whole thing?
Right.
Just deny it without prejudice. They can always come back later.
Yeah.
Because as we learned last time, if we don't deny it automatically.
Yeah,
It'll come back and haunt us because it'll kick in automatically.
Right. I agree. I think it makes, if we're going to get a planner on board, let's do this right. I mean, that's the planning part of TP&Z, right?
Okay, well, so I'll make a motion that we deny the application without prejudice. Second.
Second.
Should you be making the motion, Jeff, as the chair? I don't think you should.
I'll make the motion.
Is there a motion?
I'll still second.
Okay.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
You can abstain.
And you've abstained.
I'm not seated for
Right.
this.
You're not.
Yeah, Chris would make
You're
us
not
go
technically-
physically
you're not-
seated.
You're not technically seated for this either.
That's fine.
All right. So, let's do a Ginger Nass's sign. Application for a freestanding business sign. So, who was here? You were here. You were here. You were here.
I was not.
You were not.
That was just today, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, okay. So it's just okay. So, discussion. Motion.
I move to, if I understand it correctly, there is really no additional signage here. Meaning they had something already, and all they're doing is replacing what was there with some new language.
Yes.
That's what they said. In which case, I didn't understand why they needed approval for it. because they already had a sign and all they're doing is changing what was on the verbiage on the sign. But anyway, I make a motion to approve it.
Didn't somebody come before us about 2 months ago to put a sign opposite that entrance on the other side of the driveway? So that's just gonna be, yeah.
And it received a permit.
Hmm?
And it received a permit.
Right.
Mhm.
And so that didn't show up in any of the photos. But there's just gonna be all these signs.
We're on
lined
TV,
up.
so I don't want to go very far because you won't look good. But I think that the person that's putting the other sign up used to be related to one of these people.
Yes,
Oh, thank you.
I recall that as well.
Okay, thanks.
So was that the sign that used to be hanging down?
No. Well, I don't know,
Right.
actually.
So, I would think that if somebody's replacing a sign and coming before us for a permit, I would love to have before and after. So we're not just taking their word, we are actually seeing what was there before.
But if the signage meets the regulations, right, the size regulations?
Yeah, but part of our discussion is it was there before, so I think it'd be good to see it. They always show us pictures. Why aren't they showing it of that?
Well, I do remember another sign there. I think it's this sign. Actually, this one's just been painted over. And then that's what I actually think he said. But and then it suddenly disappeared. And I actually thought it was because see, I told you it's too close to the road. The plow knocked it down. But now I'm thinking it might have something to do with this other application we approved. And so this sign's going up there instead. I still think it's way too close to the road. I don't understand that, but we can't really do anything about that.
There's a sign on the ground in one of the photos, right?
That's a sign that was subject to some enforcement action. That's another business in that building that has no
Permit for a
permit.
sign.
So I don't think we have enough information to say no.
Right.
I mean, enough reason. So was there a second?
I'll say.
Was there a motion? Oh, Alan, that's right.
All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Good. So, Mr. Gilbertson, are we allowed to go back out of work session and go into
Sure.
public session and then come back into work session?
Sure.
So we're going to do that, Mr. Leonard. Because we're here for you. We almost weren't here for you. I'm just kidding. Mr. Leonard, 175 Annie Road, application for a special permit for a liquor establishment for manufacturer beer and brew pub use at 175 Annie Road. If you could just sign in there. Who's on this? Yes. Yes. No. Because you weren't here at the last meeting. And that's what he,
part of the last meeting.
did he present it at the last meeting?
It did.
Yeah.
It was accepted at the last
It
meeting.
was just accepted. There was no hearing or anything.
no hearing.
Well, he gave us a whole lot.
Oh, that's
Yeah, he
right.
did. He gave no samples, but a pretty lengthy discussion.
My apologies for being late. I put the wrong date in the phone. There's no excuses. But thank you so much. You guys came for me for this. And
I thought you were there brewing or something.
Couldn't
I was
leave.
delivering a baby to taxi and
Emergency.
brewing beer. It's a
Emergency.
great story, I'm sure.
We thought you were going to bring something.
After the meeting.
We're going to approve samples for everybody, but thank you so much. And I truly apologize for being late to this.
Okay, so what they're doing is they're going to open up their.
Well, what we have now, what the state license that we have is a manufacturer beer permit. So we can produce beer and sell it. We're allowed to sell retail in growlers, and people come to our tasting room. We can give out samples to people, and they can fill growlers to go off premise. They can take them out of our building, enjoy them somewhere else. 2 years ago, they came up with a new license. It's manufacturer beer and brew pub, which allows people with my license to apply for this license, so that when people come in, we can actually sell pints of beer or samples of like what they call a flight, 5 different little samples of beer. So that's what we'd like to do to enhance our tasting room experience to our customer. Because when you're waiting online for growlers, or a lot of people meet at breweries now, and there's so many breweries popping up in Connecticut, and they all have tasting rooms. A lot of them have this new license, and so we'd like to compete with that. And instead of just giving away all the beer and samples, we'd like to actually make a little money on that. So that's the only real difference. I guess with that license, we could put in a restaurant, and I don't want to do that at all. We just want to continue what we're doing, but just offer the extra service of giving pints to people when they come in. The hours would be the same. Right now we're open Wednesday through Friday 3 to 7 and Saturdays 11 to 4. We have no intention of being a bar open till 2 o'clock, selling beer, and there's no stools. We want people in and out, but if we ever wanted to expand the hours, maybe include a Tuesday or a Monday, I guess we'd come before you guys again and ask if we could expand the hours of that. But it's pretty simple. It's just the addition of adding the sale of pints at the brewery, at the tasting room.
Are your hours regulated by the liquor commission?
The hours for sampling and growler fills are the same as liquor stores.
Okay.
So I think they just changed that till 10 o'clock. But before, and on Sundays, was it noon to 5? We're not open Sundays. That doesn't really apply. But, so we can't do growlers after 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock now, I guess. And I have no interest in being there any later than I already am.
Yeah, I'll bet.
And you produce at least 5,000 gallons of beer
Absolutely.
annually.
I think we do that in a day almost.
Really? Really? Wow.
We do, 30 barrels is 1,000 gallons. We're going to be, with the new system, doing 60 barrels a day.
And what were you doing? What were you doing in the old place?
The old place, annually, it was 4,000 barrels. In this new spot, we're doing about 8. In September, we're getting a lot more tanks and equipment. It will be up to 16 to 20. All in Connecticut. We used to be in a bunch of other states, but Connecticut has finally opened up to craft beer, and we can fill the orders. Like G&G is our New Haven distributor. They want 1,200 cases a week. We give them 300. We just don't have enough. So each salesman will get 15 to 20 cases for 100 accounts. And so it's a big headache right now, but come the fall.
Those of us who try to buy it other places, it's a headache.
Yeah.
All right.
Let me use that. So, I was here when you presented this, that's why I'm sitting. Did you come twice before this public hearing?
The first one was to say, there is this new license, you guys don't have it in the books yet.
Right, I remember that meeting.
Yeah, accept the license.
And then you had one that came the last month too?
Came to last month.
With the actual application.
To accept it.
With the application, which was accepted, and there was colloquy.
Which is before us now.
No, I understand it was accepted. What I'm asking is, was there activity done that I wasn't exposed to at the last meeting? Because if the application is accepted, nothing is done on it until the public hearing. That's what I'm asking the question.
Just him giving his talk. So probably not a whole lot, a little bit more than what we had tonight, but basically the same thing. So.
Which sounded like the same thing when you first came.
Yeah, I think it was
absolutely. I'm sure you can vote on it.
No, I'm just asking the question because I'm not hearing anything new. That's why I'm asking the question. That's all. Okay. Thanks very much.
He came with somebody last time. I think
the family was here last time.
Yes, with the kids.
It's quite possible, by the way, he had a jacket and tie on.
And now you caught me on my off guard
so
Monday.
I'm just telling you what you missed.
And the 2 children. Cute kids.
And they were kids.
And 2 children, and they're
were
working in
kids.
the family business at this point.
That was only a
They're a little too young for that.
That was
A little too young.
All right, is there a motion to? Oh no. So excuse me. Thanks you. Thanks.
Any other questions I can answer?
Is there anybody here that wants to talk for or against the applicant?
There's nobody here.
You never know. Tony's.
You don't know. Tony's right there.
Okay.
He may have had some.
Okay, so we're going to go back into a work session now. And we're going to discuss Robert Lynn at 175 Amity Road. Application for a special permit for a liquor establishment for the manufacture of beer and brew pub use at 175 Amity Road. Is there a motion?
Motion
Second.
to approve.
Second. Steve Skronik. I just realized I'm not saying this out loud, so I guess you're writing it down, right? Okay. Discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Is there an hours of operations
Clearly state. Did
the application state?
No, he's not changing his hours.
Right, he just said that.
Right. I was just telling Terry.
Thank you. We had the discussion in other contexts. I think it was Wheelers that the illegal hours should be.
Yeah, don't limit yourself.
Don't limit yourself.
That's what we said.
But he's limiting himself so he can go home to his family.
Yeah,
That's different.
He's got to change the application.
Okay. Are there any opposed? All right, good.
You're approved.
You're approved.
Thank you for waiting.
No problem. So the other selection of representatives was Scrog.
No.
Did we actually vote on that?
I thought we did, Mr. Pryor. We didn't.
Oh, yeah, we did.
Sorry. Sorry about that.
I wouldn't still be here.
He doesn't find it that interesting.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, did we actually vote on that other motion? Did we really vote on it? Because Alan asked, I think, before the vote. Alan interrupted and asked a question, I think, before we actually voted.
I don't think so.
I don't think we
I
voted.
thought we did.
We did not vote.
We didn't vote on it.
Right.
Okay, so all those
we
in favor
need.
say aye.
Aye.
Do you know what you're voting on?
Yes.
I said, is anyone
Alan's
opposed?
third motion is
No
what we're
one
voting
said
on.
no one's opposed. Everyone
Yeah,
said
I
no.
thought
No one
I
said
did.
they're opposed.
No, you made the motion, and then Alan, there was the discussion,
okay.
and Alan asked, that
I'm
Alan
sorry.
asked the question, and we never voted, but
Okay.
And
before it
after we
gets
made
tied
it
up.
wait.
Right, right.
All right. Sorry about that. Okay, application for a special permit for earth removal, fill, and regrading relative to the residential site development at 190 Seymour Road.
Can't argue about taking that out of the law.
Yeah, we'd like to, but we're not.
Since the DOT is making him do it, whether he likes it or not.
Yeah.
So,
We'd like to have the advisory opinion from the board and the commissioner that the wall be put up, but you can't really force them to do it. But, that's part of the protocol that you've been using in the past, so you might just
Tried.
It's a parenthetical assertion.
I tried. Well, they took down all the stone walls along Amity Road on by Seymour.
Amazing.
So, is there a motion
I can move that.
And I
To
can-
approve
and I
as
can
submitted.
second it.
And you can second it. We'd like to get them to
We're
work.
voting now. We're voting now. All those in favor say aye.
aye.
Opposed?
Including the conditions from
Yeah.
the engineer.
Yes.
Yes.
In my motion.
Okay, moving right along, selection of representatives of the Scrog Planning Agency. So, as I said in my email, I'm happy to stay on as the alternate if somebody else wanted to take the other spot.
It's 5:30.
I didn't get any emails from anybody.
It's 5:30 on Thursday, you said?
I think so. Oh, yeah, actually, you can do that. You have time.
No, I thought 5:30, 6:30, 7:30.
All year.
During the winter.
When do they meet? Only once a month?
There was an email around it.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. I don't
Usually as
recall.
needed.
I believe it's once a month.
Yeah, that's no problem. How long is the meeting long?
I've never been to
You don't look
one.
very happy over there.
I would volunteer, except that my office is in Milford, and I might be able to get there 50% of the time. If you, as the alternate, want to pledge to 50% of the time, potentially, then I'll offer my services.
All right.
Do you need two? How many I can split it with you because I can do it 50% of the time also because I don't play every week. And when I don't, I'm more than happy to go.
So then we'll put down all three of us. So those two and on the alternates too.
Okay? No. It's 3 equals.
I think you guys figure it out.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
A three-headed coin.
All right. Selection of ex officio representative for Coopop. I actually was doing this before, so I was just going to stay on there unless someone feels they have this. Okay. And selection of representative to the West Rock Ridge State Park Advisory Council.
I've been doing that.
Oh. I was
Somebody
wondering
else
who's been doing it.
Yeah, I was doing that.
How often do they meet?
4 times a year.
And is there like a set time? I mean, a set pattern of?
It's here. Not going anyplace. It's
right in town.
It's in the boardroom. Over the last couple of years, it's been in the boardroom.
I'd be interested in doing that, as long as it's a time of year that I can.
Yeah, it's 4 times a year.
If it's a meeting you can't make, just let us know.
And one of you three will pop in.
Somebody.
And Chris goes also.
Yeah.
She represents Bethany.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Chris is on it for Bethany.
All right. There you go. I think that's it.
Are we doing anything with this?
No, actually, I'm passing it out because it was given to me on the way in the door, but this isn't on the agenda, and this is about the house that's being built on Luciani Street, where they had to do a lot of digging and rock removal. So
this was sent to our consulting engineer?
no, she told me it wasn't supposed to be on the top, so I don't really know why it's up there. So no, I don't believe it was.
Okay, so this is the private citizen and right here where it's being put.
This is a neighbor.
Yeah, okay.
But since it's not on our agenda, we're not really going to talk about it. All right, is there a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion to adjourn.
All those in favor say aye.
Our next
Steven
meeting-
second.